SHEDEUR Sanders isn't just another promising quarterback prospect. He's the foundation of a much bigger plan. Harbaugh's vision hinges on quarterback development, and he sees Sanders as the kind of raw, moldable talent that can be shaped into a franchise cornerstone. It's no coincidence that Harbaugh's boldest coaching demands are surfacing now, right when Cleveland is looking for a long-term answer under center. The timing is strategic. And if the Browns bite, they'll be handing Harbaugh the keys not just to a team, but to their identity. This quarterback-first strategy could redefine how franchises operate. Harbaugh isn't coming in to manage someone else's vision. He wants full autonomy, and Sanders is central to that blueprint. If Cleveland agrees, they'll be tearing down traditional walls between coaching, management.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
And ownership. It's a high-stakes gamble. Total buy-in to Harbaugh's model might finally stabilize the Browns, or plunge them into even deeper chaos. Didn't pull punches. He didn't tiptoe, and he definitely didn't care about softening the blow. In a move that sent a ripple straight through the NFL's front offices, Harbaugh made it clear that if you want him coaching your team, you don't just get a head coach, you get the architect, the builder, and the man who owns the blueprint. Full control over roster decisions, staffing, and personnel influence, plus a $20 million annual salary. That's the price. And teams are listening. Loudly. One of the first to lean in? The Cleveland Browns. A franchise so familiar with chaos, it practically lives in it. But Harbaugh's vision isn't just about controlling a locker room. It's about owning the outcome. After years with the Baltimore Ravens, he's seen what happens when front offices meddle, when coaches are handed talent they didn't ask for, and when accountability is passed around like a hot potato. This time, if it fails, it's on him. But if it works, he gets all the credit. That's the deal. And Cleveland, of all teams, might just be the one desperate enough to take it. Cleveland's interest in Harbaugh isn't random. It's strategic. It's driven by years of missteps, of hiring and firing, of quarterback experiments that never quite landed. And then there's SHEDEUR Sanders, the unspoken centerpiece of the entire proposition. Harbaugh's obsession with quarterback development isn't a phase, it's a philosophy. And SHEDEUR checks every box. Young, talented, and just raw enough to be molded into something elite. That's the bait. The Browns have a shot at turning chaos into control, and SHEDEUR is the thread connecting every part of this new plan. Harbaugh's approach puts quarterback development front and center. No patchwork veterans, no desperate trade deadline Hail Marys. He wants to build, and SHEDEUR Sanders represents the kind of foundation that fits the plan. For Cleveland, it's a gamble that could finally stabilize the franchise. For Harbaugh, it's a blank canvas with potential, and a quarterback who can absorb the weight of a rebuild without cracking. But this isn't just about talent. It's about pressure. Harbaugh has made it clear any quarterback in his system needs to handle the heat. Sanders, despite being relatively new to the NFL scene, has shown flashes that he can take on that role. His post-game demeanor, the way he answers tough questions, the way he frames setbacks, it's all part of the evaluation. Harbaugh sees more than stats. He sees leadership potential. And that might be the most important metric of all. If Sanders can survive the spotlight, the scrutiny, and the noise, then Harbaugh believes he can shape him into something special. And Cleveland, with its revolving door of quarterback dramas, is in desperate need of that kind of player-coach alignment. It's no coincidence that Harbaugh's interest rises at the same time Sanders becomes a focal point. The two stories are merging fast, and the Browns are at the center of it. When Harbaugh talks about quarterback success, he's not just talking mechanics. He's talking about how a player handles failure, deals with the media, takes command of a locker room. SHEDEUR's interviews so far haven't been flashy, but they've been honest, controlled, measured. That tone is exactly what Harbaugh wants. It signals maturity and coachability, two traits that matter more to him than raw athleticism. There's no doubt that SHEDEUR still has a lot to prove. But in Harbaugh's framework, development isn't about being perfect now. It's about being moldable. A coach with complete control wants someone he can shape without interference. And SHEDEUR's current trajectory fits right into that. It's why Cleveland's flirtation with this new structure makes so much sense. They're not just evaluating Harbaugh, they're testing a full franchise reset. Harbaugh's stance has sent teams scrambling and execs whispering. A $20 million ask for a head coach? That's quarterback money. And not just any quarterback. We're talking top tier, carry the franchise money. But Harbaugh's logic is hard to ignore. If he's responsible for the whole machine, from roster to locker room to results, then he wants to be paid like it. His press conference messaging has been consistent. Accountability only works when there's authority. And authority comes with a price. For the NFL, this presents a new problem. If Cleveland agrees, the domino effect could be massive. Other coaches could follow. Other franchises might face pressure to hand over similar control. The league's traditional structure, a triangle of ownership, management, and coaching, could start to shift. And at the heart of it all is one quarterback whose timeline might just dictate when this change happens. SHEDEUR's game tape is now under more scrutiny than ever. Harbaugh's interest has elevated his profile from promising young QB to strategic franchise cornerstone. Scouts are analyzing every throw, every read, every misstep. The question isn't just whether he can play, it's whether he can grow. Because Harbaugh's system isn't plug-and-play. It's process-driven. It requires a quarterback who can evolve week to week, season to season. That development curve is what makes this entire situation unique. Harbaugh isn't asking for 1 year. He wants time. He wants a long runway and the authority to build the team around his quarterback's growth. That's the blueprint. And SHEDEUR's match performances are either reinforcing that vision or challenging it. The stakes for him have quietly doubled, even if no one's saying it out loud. But with Harbaugh's rise comes inevitable tension, and nowhere is that tension more obvious than with Andrew Berry. As Cleveland's GM, Berry has spent years crafting rosters under the assumption that the front office calls the shots. If Harbaugh comes in with full authority, Berry's role becomes ambiguous at best. At worst, it becomes obsolete. And that's not the kind of power shift that happens quietly. Internal conflict is almost a guarantee. Harbaugh's demands signal a move away from collaboration towards singular leadership. And while that may be attractive to a team craving results, it also fractures the current hierarchy. Berry has built his career on analytics, structure, and process. Harbaugh operates on instinct, experience, and gut calls. That clash isn't philosophical, it's operational. And someone's going to have to bend. Cleveland's history is what makes this moment so volatile. Years of failed coaching hires, quarterback turnover, and playoff collapses have created a franchise identity built on near misses and restarts. Harbaugh represents a clean break from that. A decisive, control-first model that doesn't just tweak things, it reinvents them. And that's why the Browns are even considering it. They've tried incremental change. They've tried talent band-aids. None of it worked. Harbaugh offers a full reset, the kind that scares ownership but excites fans. But the risk is real. If it fails, it won't just be another name added to the coaching carousel. It will be proof that even full control can't fix Cleveland. And that kind of failure carries more weight than the usual rebuild. It would be Harbaugh's approach has always been blunt force honesty. He's not one to charm his way into a job or appease ownership with vague promises. He shows up with demands. And in this case, those demands signal a bigger ambition. It's not about money, not really. The $20 million price tag is about insulation. It makes him harder to fire, harder to replace, and much harder to ignore. It gives him the runway to take risks without having to explain every decision to a committee. That kind of freedom doesn't exist in the current NFL structure. Coaches usually work under GMs who answer to owners, who answer to, well, technically no one. Harbaugh wants to bypass that. His offer to the league is simple. Let me run the team like I ran a locker room, directly, decisively, and without layers of slow decision-making. Some execs are horrified. Others are intrigued. But everyone's watching. The reason this is even on the table for Cleveland comes down to their consistent failure to build anything lasting. They've cycled through quarterbacks, coordinators, and coaching staffs like it's a ritual. SHEDEUR Sanders is the first quarterback in years who actually offers a vision. Not a stopgap, not a short-term burst, but a player you could imagine being the face of the franchise 5 years from now. And that matters to Harbaugh, because he doesn't want to spend his tenure patching holes. He wants to build around a quarterback who hasn't been broken by the league yet, someone who can grow with the system instead of being forced to unlearn bad habits. Sanders is already being treated as the kind of quarterback Harbaugh believes in, mentally tough, still developing, and not tied to a specific offensive ideology yet. In recent pressers, SHEDEUR hasn't dodged the pressure. He knows the rumors, the noise, the speculation. But the way he handles it, calm, neutral, no defensive energy, says a lot about his temperament. Harbaugh has coached players under immense pressure before. He's watched some collapse under the weight, while others, the rare ones, got sharper, more focused. Sanders is trending toward the second group, and Harbaugh's interest is only reinforcing that. That post-game focus isn't a media skill, it's a survival trait. When your coach wants full control, it means there are no scapegoats. Quarterbacks and coaches are judged as one unit. And SHEDEUR seems ready for that kind of partnership. Whether the Browns give them both the green light is still undecided, but the alignment is clearer every week. The bigger picture here is about culture. Harbaugh doesn't want to join a team. He wants to lead one. And part of that means shaping how the team communicates, how it handles wins, how it responds to losses. Sanders has already started to shift Cleveland's tone. His interviews don't sound like someone following a script. He sounds like someone setting a new one. That subtle leadership is exactly what Harbaugh wants. Not someone screaming in huddles or posting highlight reels, but someone who leads by presence. When Sanders talks, you can sense he's already aware of the pressure that comes with being the guy in Cleveland. Harbaugh's system thrives under that kind of awareness. He doesn't need to install culture from scratch. Sanders already brings some of it to the table. But it's not just SHEDEUR and Harbaugh who have to click, it's the entire ecosystem. The press conferences are where that tension often slips out. Harbaugh's recent jabs at the committee-style decision-making of modern franchises weren't random. They were aimed. And teams like the Browns knew exactly who he was talking about. The message is simple. If I fail, it'll be because I had control and blew it. Not because I was handed someone else's roster. Not because a GM forced a pick I didn't believe in. Not because ownership overruled a scheme change. That level of control has always been taboo in the NFL, but Harbaugh's betting that results will speak louder than structure. And Sanders, being early in his career, is the perfect test case for that theory. The league is used to coaches making demands behind closed doors. Harbaugh making his expectations public changes the whole equation. It puts pressure on front offices to respond publicly too. And for players like Sanders, it brings their development process under a microscope. Every play he makes now carries the weight of two futures, his own and potentially Harbaugh's. His match compilations are dissected frame by frame, not just for skill, but for decision-making, body language, timing. Harbaugh wants a quarterback who's aware of more than just the playbook. He wants someone who plays like he understands the full field, the literal one and the organizational one. Sanders is in that space now, performing not just as a quarterback, but as a symbol for how Cleveland might rebuild it. Of course, none of this works unless the Browns are willing to break their own system. And that's where Andrew Berry becomes the story. His silence during all of this has been deafening. No leaks, no statements, no off-the-record spin. Which tells you everything you need to know. The pressure is real. If Harbaugh comes in, Berry either adapts to a secondary role or prepares for a clean exit. And that's not just ego, it's logistics. Two leaders with opposite approaches can't both be in charge. Berry built the Browns around analytical structure. Harbaugh trusts gut, timing, instinct. You can't split the difference without slowing everything down. One of them has to win the power struggle. And right now, Harbaugh is the one holding the leverage. For fans, this is the crossroads they've seen coming for years. Cleveland has been through every flavor of rebuild. Nothing has stuck. Coaches were hired to fix quarterbacks. Quarterbacks were drafted to match systems that didn't last. GMs promised 5-year plans that fell apart by year 2. It's always been reactive, never proactive. This is different. Harbaugh isn't a short-term fix. He's a system breaker. And bringing him in would be the first time the Browns have chosen one identity and gone all in. It's risky. It could blow up. But so could doing nothing. That's the real choice here. Not between Harbaugh and another coach, but between doing what they've always done or finally trying something that scares. And make no mistake, this scares people. Harbaugh's rise is a direct challenge to how the NFL likes to operate. Owners like control. GMs like hierarchy. Coaches are expected to make do with what they're given. Harbaugh flips that script. He says, "Give me control and judge me by what I build." That approach doesn't leave room for excuses or safety nets. Cleveland's willingness to entertain this isn't just desperation, it's clarity. They've seen what happens when everyone tries to share the wheel. They're tired of half measures. Harbaugh is the first candidate they've seriously considered who doesn't ask to be part of the team. He asks to be the team. And that kind of clarity, while risky, is exactly what unstable franchises usually. But clarity isn't comfort. If this move happens, it will be the most radical shift in Cleveland's structure in decades. Andrew Berry would either become a supporting figure or be forced out. Ownership would have to give up day-to-day involvement. And the players, especially Sanders, would be held accountable in a system that doesn't tolerate inconsistency. And yet, that's what makes it compelling. The Browns have tried everything else. Harbaugh offers them a new way, one where success and failure both have clear authors. No more hiding behind vague blame games. No more wondering who's really calling the shots. Just results. And the people who made them. There's a reason Harbaugh's demands feel like such a gut punch to NFL tradition. For decades, the league has thrived on a delicate power balance. GMs scout, coaches implement, owners bankroll. It's neat, organized, and in Harbaugh's eyes, outdated. He's watched how the bureaucracy slows winning, how decision-making by committee turns clear problems into long-term dysfunction. So now, he's saying no more. His play is bold. If I win, it's because I had the reins. If I lose, fire me. But you'll never wonder who made the calls. That clarity cuts both ways. It's empowering, but it's also dangerous. The stakes double when there's no buffer. And Harbaugh's perfectly fine with that. It's what separates him from every other candidate. He's not applying. He's offering a new way forward. And then there's SHEDEUR. Whether he's saying it out loud or not, he knows this moment is bigger than just his development. If Harbaugh comes in, SHEDEUR becomes the focal point of an entire regime. Every snap becomes evidence. Every press conference becomes narrative control. But he hasn't flinched. His consistency off the field has become just as valuable as his flashes on it. What makes this pairing so unique is how aligned they are in temperament. Harbaugh thrives on discipline and structure. Sanders thrives under clear expectations. Neither one is interested in slow-burn rebuilds that go nowhere. They want action. They want definition. And for the first time in a long time, Cleveland has two key pieces aligned on how to do things. And that's the only reason this even has a shot. After every loss, SHEDEUR's language doesn't shift. There's no finger-pointing, no vague excuses about effort or chemistry. It's always direct. We didn't execute. I miss that read. We've got to be better. And for a city like Cleveland, used to quarterbacks hiding behind PR statements, that kind of ownership is refreshing. Harbaugh sees that, and he values it. Because, in his system, accountability is oxygen. You don't get to shrug off mistakes and wait for film review. You own it, fix it, and move on. SHEDEUR, even as a young QB, seems built for that environment. The Browns may not realize it yet, but these post-game interviews are telling a story louder than any stat sheet ever could. The conversation around SHEDEUR has shifted. It's no longer about whether he can make the leap. It's about how fast he can do it. His poise in interviews, the way he discusses scheme, timing, and chemistry with receivers, it's all sharp. He's not guessing. He's processing. That's a signal to coaches like Harbaugh, who look for quarterbacks that think like coordinators. It's rare to find someone so early in their career speaking with that much tactical awareness. That level of insight gives Harbaugh confidence that Sanders can be taught, not just plays, but philosophy. And that's the real long-term plan. A quarterback who doesn't just execute the system, but embodies it. That's what Cleveland has a chance to build here. And they know it. The day Harbaugh held his press availability, he didn't play coy. No, we'll see what happens, or just looking for a good fit. He stated what he wanted, and dared someone to meet him at the table. It was less of a request and more of a warning. Don't bring me in if you're not ready to change everything. That tone? It didn't scare Cleveland. It intrigued them. Because, for once, the risk actually looks smarter than the alternative. Staying the course means another year of internal tension, rotating coaching staff, and a fan base tired of being patient. Harbaugh offers upheaval, yes, but it's focused. It's bold. And it's exactly what the Browns haven't tried. On the field, SHEDEUR's decision-making is starting to match his off-field maturity. His NFL match compilations show a quarterback learning how to manage games, not just make plays. That's where Harbaugh's development focus comes in. He's not interested in highlight reels. He wants consistency, ball security, clock management. The boring stuff that wins games. That shift in Sanders' play style hasn't gone unnoticed. He's playing smarter, more calculated, more structured. That evolution screams coachability, and for Harbaugh, it confirms that this isn't just a project, it's a fit. He doesn't need a flashy rookie. He needs a reliable one. And SHEDEUR is quietly becoming just, but there's still a storm brewing behind the scenes. Andrew Berry has built this front office to be methodical, data-driven, and balanced. Harbaugh's arrival would detonate that structure. Not because of ego, but because the system isn't big enough for both. You can't have full autonomy and a GM with final say. Someone has to step aside. And Berry's silence is starting to feel like acceptance. Not publicly, of course, but internally. The Browns are facing the question, what's more important, stability in the front office or a chance at transformational leadership? Because you can't have both. If Harbaugh steps in, Berry's influence shrinks. That's the reality, and Cleveland will have to pick a... If you've followed the Browns long enough, you know why this is such a big deal. The franchise has spent the better part of 2 decades chasing the illusion of balance, trying to please fans, placate ownership, and manage expectations all at once. It's led to nothing but turnover and mediocrity. This Harbaugh-SHEDEUR proposition doesn't offer balance. It offers a direction. One that's firm, aggressive, and unapologetic. And maybe that's exactly what Cleveland needs. Not another compromise. Not another rebuild. Just one clear vision. Coach and quarterback, aligned, empowered, and ready to carry the weight. If they pull the trigger, the NFL won't just take notice. It'll be forced to adapt. If you've been yelling at your screen this whole time, you're not alone. Drop your take in the comments. Would you hand Harbaugh the keys? And if you're riding this drama train with us, hit that like, share it with someone who's been through Brown's heartbreak, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. This saga is far from over.